Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Relationship Podcast, brought you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Gloriann. Welcome to another relationship podcast. In today's episode, I'll be talking about how the pandemic has affected the relationship that we have with our friends and families. Of course, we all know that before the pandemic, we all had a routine and a set schedule. Some people working 9 to 5, others working crazy hours, kids being at school, a college student, being away from your parents, being in, living alone, doing independent things. COVID changed all of that. Now you're working remotely and maybe the kids trying to go to school online and the dog's making noises, or your parents entering every 5 minutes when you're in your classes, or whichever reason. COVID has changed everything. The struggle that you had or still have, because you need to work plus help your kid to do their homework or seeing them if they're paying attention to their classes. You're being a mom, a dad, a teacher, a worker, a husband, a wife, a sister, brother. Anyway, the point is that it's been a struggle. And if you're a student like me, it is a struggle. It was a struggle being at your house and your parents entering every time or making noise when you're taking a class, and not having that independence that you had in campus or partying with your friends. You're now 24/7 in your parents' house and you're like, okay, I need to get out. Of course, not being able to separate yourself from your family and having your own me time is hard. It's been hard because the tension starts to escalate, especially in your family, and you really can't do anything about it because you want to stay away for 30 minutes, so you just have to lock yourself in your room or take a shower or, go to the car and just listen to music. It's been hard because, again, this tension is, starts to get rising because we're not used to being with our families 24/7. We had a set routine. We didn't see each other for a couple of hours, and now we're seeing ourselves every day, every hour. And you're like, okay, perfect. Anyway, going to the point, you need your me time. And of course, distracting yourself and doing your own thing. In my experience before COVID, I did a couple of classes online and other in campus. When COVID started, I was in the campus, obviously, taking classes, in-person classes. And once they shut the country down, well, not the country, but once they did the lockdown, I had to take my classes online all the time. And it was really hard to concentrate and being at home all the time and my family being here as well. We were literally 3 people trying to use the internet. 2 of them were taking classes and another person was working 9 to 5. So it was hard, it was difficult, and every time the internet went down. So we were just fighting with each other. And in my experience with taking classes online and being in the house all the time, I can say that at the same time, my brother, if he was in lunch and I was taking classes, he would start to make noise and I'm like, dude, I'm in class. Or I was in the living room and he was in his room and he went out to go to the bathroom or to get food from the kitchen. It was like he was passing through the camera and I'm like, dude, I'm in class, like, come on. And he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't know. Or like when he was in class and I was off and I needed to like get food or I was making food, it's like, Gloriann, I'm in class, don't make noise. It was a struggle. And obviously, like my dad being here as well, it was all the time like just fighting and fighting and fighting because we needed silence, but at the same time we needed to answer things in class or like to get our grades. React with our friends or like our classmates. And it was difficult because it's like it's not the same when you're in class face to face and you have the next person next to you and you start creating like a friendship because either you don't understand the class or you just hate the professor or you love the professor or whatever it is. Online, it's not like that. Online is like you're seeing everybody and everybody's either not paying attention to the professor or they're just paying attention to a professor and you're here like, okay, so what do? I can't really like talk to the other person or I can't chat with them. So it was weird, to be honest, doing the online classes and with my family in the house. One thing that I can say is that with the pandemic, I've been getting along much better with my brother. I can say that we fight it a lot and we really didn't get along. And I guess this year being together and having our time and, getting to know each other better and talking about our frustrations, and we see that we have a lot of things in common as well. We have gotten a lot closer. I can say that now, like today, him and I, we went out to eat. I told him like, hey, you want to go out to eat? I'll pay. And we went out to eat and it was funny because I was talking to him, this and that, and he started to like being annoying. And we literally like started to fight just because he was just annoying me. And he was just like laughing all the way and I was getting pissed off and he was just like making fun of me. And that's one thing that I can say that once the pandemic started, we never did that. And sometimes he comes into my room and he sits down in my bed and he's like, oh, hey, like, can you talk? Or he starts just saying like random things to me or showing me random videos that he's seen in his social media. And that's one thing that I could say that has been positive in my reaction with my family. A negative, I can say that being in my house all the time, it has brought a lot of tension between me and my dad. We crash a lot in a lot of things because he either says something that I'm not really comfortable with or I just start just saying like, no, that you're wrong. And we just start to have these discussions between him and I that I can say that we had, but now we're seeing each other all the time. It's been growing and growing and growing, and it's not that we don't get along, but it's just a lot of tension. And I can say that it's because of COVID, the fact of me still living in his house and just the whole tension of being, staying here in his house has affected him in a really big way. And we try to do things together, but it's always just a discussion or ends up us fighting or just laughing all the way. It really is like a Pandora's box with him sometimes. And when my brother, him and I, when we're together, we've been spending a lot of time together as a family, and that's a good thing because my dad he's always been working, and he was, when we were living in Puerto Rico, he was here in Florida, and we didn't spend that much time with him together. So I can say that COVID has bring us together a little bit, although there's still tension between us on the fact that I start fighting with him, like just saying like, no, you're wrong, or he's telling me that I'm wrong. And it's just a really big discussion between him and I. Another thing is, of course, the reactions that I have or the interactions that I had with my mom and my grandparents have changed a lot, because I haven't seen them in a year and a half, I can say, maybe more. It's not 2 years, so maybe 1 year, 8 months, something like that. Anyways, the point is that our interactions are just different now, because since the fact that I haven't seen them face to face, it's not the same of like calling them or video chatting with them, because we just talk for like 10 minutes and that's it, like, okay, bye. And then we don't talk for like a week or maybe 2 weeks. And I can say that obviously I saw them maybe 4 or 5 times a year, and I've noticed that we've separated a lot, even though obviously my grandparents, like, if I don't call him, my grandfather, if I don't call him, he calls me and like, yeah, why you're not calling, is everything okay? He still worries a little bit, but obviously it's not being the same. And including like the fact of me being here in Florida and my whole family being in Puerto Rico, I have missed a lot of things. And I think missing a lot of things as well has made me lost a really big part of at least of my little cousin's life. She's a little kid, and I can say that I moved when my aunt was pregnant. When she was born, I went there, I saw her, I met her. For her first year, I was there too. And for other things, I've been there. But every time like I see her in my phone or like video chatting with my aunt, she doesn't really recognize me. And even though we try to talk every week, she still doesn't, I don't know if it's because of her age, but she still doesn't know who I am. And she gets a little bit confused. She's like, Auntie? And I'm like, no, that's my mom. I'm Gloriann, remember? I'm your cousin. And she's like, Auntie? Like, she gets confused. Like, she knows who she's talking with, but at the same time, she just doesn't. And so obviously the fact of not being there due to COVID, I can say that it has affected my relationship with my little cousin and my grandparents a lot. And of course, the fact of not being in Puerto Rico, it has affected my friendship as well. Like, my close friends for me are family, and not seeing them for a long time, I can say that we try to talk every day, but of course they have their jobs, they have their relationships, and they have other things to do. And I totally understand that, but it has affected me really bad. It has affected the relationship really bad, because of the fact that if I text them or if they call me, I'm like, either I'm doing something, or if I call them, they're hanging out, or they're doing just different things. And it has been just complicated. I've noticed that a lot of people have been being distant with each other. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but at the same time, due to COVID, we have distance ourselves from everybody, because we're just in the house 24/7, or going to work from the house, going to work to the grocery stores, or going to work to my house, to your house. And it has been we have this new routine, and obviously this new routine, we're not really socializing with nobody, and we're not really doing anything to distract ourselves. So we're in our own little bubble, just doing our stuff. I can say that that's how COVID has affected my relationship with my family members and my friends. Of course, with my coworkers, it's been a whole different story, because I can say that with them, it's just different, because that's the people that I'm seeing even more now instead of my friends. And it's all, every time that we see each other, and let's say that somebody went out or somebody did something, we all, including myself, we all act so different. Like, if they haven't showered for like a month, like, we really take social distancing really serious when like one of my coworkers says like, oh yeah, no, I had people over, or no, yeah, I hang out the other day and the place was packed. We quickly just like, oh, whoops, like cockroaches when they turn on the lights. So like spreading all over the place, like, whoops, separated from you, buddy. Okay, we need to be careful. We have to wait for the 2 weeks. If you start getting symptoms, then we all have to get tested. And so talking about that, so up next, I'll be talking about how me and my coworkers, we are coping with the situation of, you know, seeing each other almost every day, and how we react when somebody says like, oh yeah, I went out yesterday and the place was packed, or yeah, I did this, or I'm traveling to this place, and how our interactions are when they say that to us.
The GSMC Sex Podcast is a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet. Download the GSMC Sex Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you can find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. The fact of not seeing them, hugging them, spending time with them, not being able to travel, it's just hard. It's been complicated. We all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has changed every aspect of our lives, from being with the family, only the weekends, having your own routine, you know, going to work 9 to 5, the kids in school, or you as a student, you know, being independent, being in campus, just taking your classes, seeing only the family on dinner time, or just, you know, seeing them on the holidays. It's changed because once COVID started, it's like, okay, everybody in their house 24/7. Plus, not seeing your friends and other family members has been complicated as well, because we go out with our friends, or we do events with our families, or go out just to distress ourselves. Plus, with social distancing, we have been isolated from other people as well. Not being able to take a break from all the stress has really affected, in a way, I can say that mentally and physically, at least. Mentally, because again, we're stuck in our house and we can really like do anything, like any hobbies, going to the gym or seeing our friends, going to the pool, going to the beach, anything that can distract us, we really can't do it right now. And if we do, we have to be really cautious of the things that we do. Anyway, to the point, when I say physically, I mean hugging or giving a fist pump or a high five. I can say that physical contact is a really big part in our lives. We give a hug to the people we love, or the people that really needs it. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have been in this point, especially, is like, I really need a hug, or I really need to see my friend, or I really just need somebody to be there for me, and we just can't because due to COVID again. And so going into the topic, our relationship has changed with everybody because it's more of we can't really show our affections due to COVID, you know, the social distancing. Of course, like if you have your partner and you live with them, obviously, of course, like you'll do whatever, because again, you guys are in the same household. But let's just say that you live with your parents, or you're alone in your house and you're your partner lives with his parents or he's in his house, and let's say you're always working, like you have to go to work for either because either if you're a nurse or a doctor or they're a nurse or a doctor, you guys have to be you guys need to be careful. And obviously COVID has changed the way that we interact with people, because it's not the same before COVID that everybody you saw, or like you either high five them, shake their hand, give them a hug, whatever it was. It's been difficult. So the fact of, okay, so I'll be honest. In my work, it's been the reaction since COVID started. It's just different. Because let's say, okay, when COVID started, I remember that a lot of my coworkers were going to go on vacation. Like it was their vacation time, and I remember that a lot of them canceled their reservations, canceled everything, and stayed home. I remember that 2 of them went on vacation, and once they came back from vacation, I remember that they didn't return to work because they had to get tested. And once they got tested and they were negative, they were okay to come back. Obviously, a lot of people in my workplace just wasn't comfortable with that, so they stayed away from them, like literally social distancing. And the fact like they were in one room and they were like in the other part of the room, just like really separated from them. And it's been, honestly, at work, it's been an adventure, because you can clearly see when you say to your coworkers, oh yeah, I went out yesterday, like I went to this restaurant and it was packed, and they just spread out like little cockroaches. When you turn on the lights, they like literally spread out and say like, what? But why were you so irresponsible? Like, did you take the right precautions? This and that. And you just have to tell them like, yeah, I was social distancing. Like I ate outside, or I just pick up the food and went to my house. Like this types of things you have to reassure them, because even though it's been a year since COVID, a lot of people still act like we don't have this much information. So in my experience, I remember that I went out in October of last year for Halloween, and I went out. They took pictures, they posted pictures on social media, and I was without my mask. Like for the pictures, I took my mask off to take pictures, and everybody else did the exact same thing. I remember that since they posted it on social media, I remember that my manager, she had a flip. She was like, oh, so I see like you're always so cautious here at work, but you took your mask off, you did this, you did that. And I'm like, I literally looked at her and I'm like, the fact that I'm not wearing the mask in the picture doesn't mean that I wasn't being cautious. So I remember that I worked with her in one of my turns. I worked with her, and I can say that woman was just, we were working and she was in the other side of the room. She did not want it to be next to me. If I like wanted to give her something like, oh, hey, here's the paper, or hey, here's the pen, she like literally took everything and sanitized it, because she was just scared. And unfortunately, she really couldn't like send me to take a test, because you have to wait. And she was just, I swear, for a week, she was just like trying to avoid me all the way. I laugh now, because unfortunately COVID has made us, we react so different now when we know that somebody went out to somewhere and it was crowded, or they didn't have their mask on. We just act so different now than since this whole thing started. And that's why I'm talking about this, because I've seen at my work, even though it's been a year, I can say that it's right now, there's another manager that she is doing her thing. She's inviting people over her house, and she posts pictures in social media, and everybody's without a mask, and everybody's just like in her house, and she has like more than 10 people in her house. So it's like it is scary. And even though when I talk to her, I'm social distancing, because I don't know the people that she has brought into her house. I don't know if those people had COVID. and she has it and she's bringing it at work. And it's just funny how we're reacting in a way that we wouldn't react before COVID. We are literally acting like they have, I don't know, they did something to us, or they have, like, if they smell really bad, well, let's just say like that, like if they smell really bad, so we just distance ourselves from them, or they have like a really bad disease, something like really naive, to be honest. Anyway, the point is that another story that I have in my workplace is that this coworker, she traveled, but she went in her car, and I remember that when she came back, they told her like, oh yeah, you have to work, Bob. They told her, yeah, you have to take a test and you can come back to work once you have your 2 negatives. And I remember that her answer was, okay, I'll do that. I'll be off for 2 more weeks. Do you think you have the personnel? And I'm here like, crap, no. And I remember that the manager said to her, okay, then just social distance from everybody and be careful what you do at the work. So literally 3 days passed, and another manager told her, you have to get tested today. And she was like, what do you mean that I have to get tested today? I don't care. Go home, do the test, and then come back when you have your results. And I remember that she came back with her first negative and she was good. But the way that people were treating her, it was just different. Because again, unfortunately, this pandemic has changed the way that we just react to everybody. As I said, we're all acting like somebody has a really bad disease, and it's not like that. I know that we should be cautious, but this pandemic has put a lot of tension in a lot of people, especially in the workplace with your friends and your family members. In the workplace, I know that a lot, if you'll see, once you start working, or like once you're working, you start to know people, and you know who has hygiene and who doesn't have a hygiene. So you know who to trust and who not to trust, who to be close to and how not to be close to. And that's what has been happening in my work. Once you tell somebody, or they see in social media that you went out, is a whole different thing. Everybody acts different. But once you have your negative, or like once you're good, that you didn't get sick, thanks to God, it's like it's all back to normal. I remember that when I went out for Halloween and my aunt saw those pictures in social media, she called me up. She lives in Puerto Rico, and she called me up and she's like, you were really irresponsible. Why are you hanging out? Like that was a really crowded place, especially in Halloween. Everybody's drinking. You're not thinking, you're not doing what you're supposed to. She really freaked me out. Even though I did what I was supposed to do, I always stayed outside. I stood away from people, and if there was like a crowded place, I did not put my foot in there, especially like with the friends that I was with as well. We were like trying to be really cautious with everything. But one of them, I do remember that she had a beautiful, like, she made her makeup and she was like a black swan, and she didn't want to wear her mask. Like, she didn't want the mask to ruin her makeup, and she was without a mask all over the place. So I was being even more cautious, because if this person is without a mask, we shouldn't be like rolling around. And I remember that I even had like I had a fanny pack, and I had 2 hand sanitizers and 2 like bottles of rubbing alcohol, just in case if there wasn't soap in the bathroom. This is how paranoid I was. I'm still am a little bit paranoid with the virus, to be honest. I still have rubbing alcohol and 2 hand sanitizers in my purse, but it's so good. So obviously her being irresponsible made me nervous, and then my aunt yelling at me at the same time. It was like, okay, so I need to get tested. And I remember, again, the manager, she was literally like, oh, did you guys stay safe? This and that. I need you guys, if one of you get test positive, like it's gonna be a whole thing. We have to shut down again, and we can't afford, she literally said to me, we can't afford doing another shutdown in the, in our company. And anyways, the point is that thanks to God, again, we all tested negative and it was all good. And one thing that I can say is that social media, you can do whatever you want, but social media right now, it's a snitch. Social media is just a snitch. Like, maybe you're doing something and they posted a photo of you and you didn't even know, or they tagged you, or your friends tagged you, and then people are not supposed to know that you were in that place, and they do that, and you're like, oh my God, why? So that's why once my aunt called me and just started talking and insulting me, basically, I put everything on all of my social media private. If they tag me in a photo, if they post a photo, if they just do or tag me in anything, nope, my friends can't see it, nobody can see it, only me. This is how paranoid COVID has put me as well, because I don't want, the thing is, since the whole global pandemic started, we all we just don't know how to react to things, because we want to stay safe, we want people to be safe, but at the same time, we need to go out. The fact of being stuck in your house doing nothing, I swear that all of us will be going crazy. We've been a year talking to people in video call, in our computers, in our phones, just doing the exact same thing. And the fact of not having human contact reactions, it's been a struggle. It is not the best thing, because us as human, we need contact. We need to socialize. We need to meet people. And it's just been difficult. And that's why I'm saying that COVID has changed the way that we've acted, because we know these people, but at the same time, we don't know where they've been. We don't know if it's more like, yeah, you're my friend, but at the same time, you're my acquaintance. I don't have that trust. What I'm trying to say is, obviously with the pandemic, it's all been a lot of tension and a lot of people don't know how to react to things. Up next, I'll be talking about how we're going to have a new normal with COVID, or once this pandemic ends, if it ends, what kind of new normal I think we'll have.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be, visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back. It's been a year since COVID, and now there's a vaccine. You must be asking yourself, are we going back to normal then? At least that is what I think to myself every time someone tells me that they got the vaccine. I'm like, yay, okay, perfect, yoo-hoo, going back to normal. When I start thinking about it, I think that we're going to have a new normal. The virus has shown us that we weren't ready for a global pandemic, but we are now, especially the fact that technology has helped us a lot to stay in touch with family, friends, co-workers, and working from home, and kids learning from home as well. And of course, it isn't the same as seeing your friends and having a good time face to face, and having to see your co-workers, but technology has helped us not lose contact with any of them. The coronavirus has brought a lot of changes, and unfortunately, one of those are people losing their jobs, obviously others working from home, not visiting family members or friends because we're exposing ourselves to the virus, wearing a mask everywhere we go, social distancing, cleaning our hands. Hey, it's been a year since this. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys, just like me, we just want things to get back to normal. And I don't think that once somebody gets the vaccine or the cases go down, I don't think that people are gonna stop. I think it's going to be a really different situation as what we had. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that once everybody has the antibodies for the virus, what's going to happen? Are we going to keep that habit of cleaning our hands or buying hand sanitizer every time we see them, or like buying cute masks online or at the store? What are we going to do with the masks that we have now? Like all the masks that we have bought. Anyway, going back to it. Are people still going to use the mask when it's not required anymore? What possible trauma is the virus going to have on us? Because obviously every big changes that happen in our lives, it can cause us trauma. The pandemic has been a dramatic shift in our jobs, parenting, and even in our social life. You have read or maybe heard that a lot of companies have shut down their offices because it's more cheaper for their workers to work from home. And this happening, it can bring a new way of not socializing with people face to face, obviously, because it's not the same meeting somebody on video call, and it's better having a interaction with them and them seeing how you move, how they can see all of that in a video call, but having it face to face, I personally think that it's more not emotional. I don't even know the word right now, to be honest. I can say that, yeah, it's more dramatic. Anyway, going to the point, I'm sorry. The companies have closed their offices and workers are working from home. How then when your coworker does a good job, or when you do a good job, how are your coworkers gonna congratulate you? Just like a congrats, just writing a congrats. It's not the same, obviously, seeing their face and they high-fiving you and being happy for you. It's obviously, you start to think, what kind of changes will this bring for a lot of coworkers or companies, and how it's gonna affect our future as well, like money wise, and how we react and all of that. How are you really gonna survive, basically? Anyway, going again to the point, too much questions and little answers. Of course, working from home can be a struggle because you don't know really how to separate what's work and what's home. You can be in your PJs talking to a client over a video call, and then your kid just starts screaming in the middle of the video call. And then you just need to stop everything because your two worlds are colliding, basically. And of course, you don't want to show in front of the client how you how your kids misbehave, or how you control them, basically. And it's been a year since our lives have changed. We've been seeing everybody in screens, either it's if it's on our computer, in our phone, and we really haven't traveled because of all the restrictions that they have. And my question is, what really is going to happen? This is my opinion and my opinion only. I think that we're going to get a new normal. I know that a lot of people are still, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are still going to be using their mask once they get or not get the vaccine. I think that a lot of people will tell their bosses that they're more comfortable staying at home and working. And other companies are just going to say to their employees, well, let's meet 3 days a week, or let's just, then we're not going back to the offices because it's closing. And it's the way how the new normal, what I'm trying to say is that the new normal is going to affect us and how we react and how it's going to affect us as humans beings as well, mentally, physically, and emotionally. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be hand sanitizers in every corner of restaurants and public places. I honestly think that we are going to be more cautious in the things that we do. Personally, I know that I'm going to be one of those people that will clean everything that somebody else uses, because the pandemic has traumatized me in a really big way, and I'm pretty sure that it has traumatized a lot of people as well. And the pandemic has shown me that we don't really know when we're going to see our friends or our families anymore. And that's what we need to stop and think and start prioritizing our lives. Now that I know that people that have gotten the vaccine, the first thing that they say to me is, when can I see you, or can I hug you? The other day, a customer, I love her. She's really nice. She could be like a second grandma to me. And she got her vaccine, and I was really happy because even though I've seen her a couple of times, she's like, can I hug you? Literally, she's like, I got my 2 shots. Please let me have a hug. Like, I haven't hugged you in a year. And I'm like, oh, okay, no worries. Like, in my head, I'm like, okay, like she's good, she's vaccinated. It's all gonna be good. And in the back of my head, though, I was still like, do I remember how to hug somebody? Like, how long should this hug be? Like, it's gonna be like a 5-second thing, or it's gonna be like 2 minutes hugging like each other. Anyways, it's weird at first, but then I remember that we have been a year in this, and that we basically forgot how to react to humans. To humans' emotions. And at least in my experience, I work in customer service, and a lot of my clients have been vaccinated. I've seen them, and the first thing I notice is that clearly they forget how to act being in a public place. They've been in their house. I work in customer service, but it's older people that come to my job. Well, at least most of them are older people. And I can say that once I go to them and start talking to them, it's like, you see them, you don't know how they are going to react to either like, to keep their mask on or to just like social distance. Like, they just don't know, because now that they got the vaccine, it's like, okay, so what can I do or cannot do? And I've seen customers that unfortunately the pandemic has made them lost their mind a little bit. When I say that lost their mind a little bit, it's more of the fact when they see me, it's like they don't remember things, being in your house alone for a long period of time and not talking to anybody or not seeing anybody or changing your whole routine can affect you. It's something that it's normal. It affects you in a really big way. And I've seen this in my customers, and I've seen it as well with my friends and my coworkers. A lot of them are just stuck and doesn't know how to react anymore, or how to act in front of people. this pandemic has really, I think it's going to be another thing that's going to be a new normal, is people not wanting to go out and getting used to another thing or another type of hangout. And even though obviously you want to get out of your house, at the same time, it's like, okay, I still want to go back to my house. It's still not safe. Anyway, the other day I was taking care of a customer that I literally didn't see them for a whole year. And this customer was out of it. And I felt really bad because she even told me, I honestly forgot how to do this. I don't know if I put my makeup right. And I see her face and I didn't want to laugh, but her makeup, like her makeup was a little bit crazy bananas. And I was like, no, you're good. Everything's good. Don't worry. She's like, no, I don't know how to act. I don't know what to do, what to not to do. I've been in my house literally stuck a year. You know, my kids were the ones who were doing the grocery for me, living in the front of my house. And I was just like being stuck in my house. This is the first day that I've been out because not the first day because I just got vaccinated, but I just don't know how to do this anymore. And I felt really bad because I know that she's not going to be the first person to feel like that, and she's not going to be the last as well. And it's weird how now everybody's just going to act just weird. That's another new normal thing, I guess. And there was even another customer that said to me, I'm vaccinated, but I still don't feel safe. You know, I'm here because I need to eat something and I needed to get out of my house, but it's just not the same. I feel weird being out. And he literally told me, I'm still traumatized by this. And you don't really think about this, but it's incredible how the virus has traumatized us in a way that I can say that nobody has talked about it. The reality is that there's a lot of people struggling, and either we're gonna have a spike in, people going to therapy and, talking to somebody, because again, you're changing your routine once again completely. You're not gonna be, once people start going out more and trying to see or do things or try to come back to their old ways, they're gonna say, I'm not feeling the same way. Because again, you in our houses for a year. So I think that that's going to be another new normal that a lot of therapists are going to, have a lot of people. And because, again, it was a really dramatic, traumatized situation what we're going through. And nobody can tell me that it's not, because it has been. We're in a global pandemic, and a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have been struggling to pay their rent. A lot of people have been just putting their future plans in pause just because the COVID-19 has changed, and it's literally controlling them instead of them controlling their every move that they want to do in their lives. I honestly don't see an end to this. I do want to think positive, and I do want to see my family. I do want to get in an airplane and see my family and travel and, and be with my friends. I don't know how I will act, especially when I see them, because again, it's been a year and a half, maybe 8 months that I haven't seen them in person. The reality is that everything is going to be a new normal. The way that we interact with people, the way that we go to work, basically all the things that we do. And I know that let's say if you go to the gym, and you know that in the gym, there's like a lot of the treadmills are all together, and you're doing exercise, or you're doing like you're running or you're walking in the treadmill, and then somebody else gets close to you, or like the one next to you. I know that a lot of people are going to have problems with that as well. It's like, oh wait, like this is normal, like, and won't know how to act basically. But going to the topic again. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little small recap for today's episode The pandemic has affected the way that we interact with people, and it has put us in a lot of tension with our friends, family members, and coworkers. If we go out, they judge us and they treat us like we have hurt them without really doing nothing. As I've stated, when I go out, I have so much precaution. I'm not going to crowded places. I try to keep my distance from everybody. And I'm always with hand sanitizer and rubbing alcohol in my purse if there's no bathroom close so I can wash my hands. And as I said as well, we've been in this for a year and everything has changed, and there's going to be a new normal for us. We just need to wait and see if it's a positive or a negative normal. We need to stay safe and keep protecting ourselves and our loved ones. I think the pandemic has made us all think about our lives and the decisions that we have made. Sometimes we make decisions not because it makes us happy, but because we just need to make a decision that was comfortable for us. I think that's why a lot of relationships have changed. Right now in society, we're always so busy and not really noticing what we have. I'm pretty sure that COVID has brought a lot of people together and made them think, what can I do with my life now, and figure things out in their lives as well. Because again, it was a really big change for everybody. Nobody can say to me, no, it wasn't a change, because it was. Up next, I'll be talking about my experiences of making friends in a pandemic.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Alrighty, so finally I'm going to be talking about how I've been making friends in the pandemic, which, let me tell you guys, you will not believe this. I've been hanging out with people that are really not my age or contemporary to my age. It's people that are either 20 or 40 years older than me, and it's been hilarious because here in Florida we have a lot of snowbirds, and where I work, there's a lot that go to my work. And with COVID, them being there almost all the time, you start to create a bond with them. And of course, I've created a bond with a couple of people, and then one of them works with me. So we've been hanging out a lot. Obviously responsibly, not going out to bars or doing crazy things. It's just literally, since we all are in our houses or we literally go to the same places, to our houses and to my work. That's what we do. Of course, when we go out to groceries or they go out to a small vacation, we don't see each other for 2 weeks to keep each other safe. And I can say that it has been a really weird experience, because even though they're much older than me, my friends, I can call them my friends because they're my friends. Even though they're much older than me, we have such a great time. And it's funny because my friend that works with me, she goes and's like, Gloriann, is that you're an old soul? Because every time we're together, we listen to old music. When I'm saying old music, it's their music from their era. And I love 80s, 70s music. I think it's music that I've been raised on, especially music from the 80s, because my parents were raised on the 80s. And we try to do different things. We go to game night. I mean, we don't go to game night we try to do once a month game night at somebody's house, and we, bring snacks, bring whatever we want to drink, ice cream. We just eat, play games, and do whatever we have to do, obviously responsibly at the same time. And it's a small group. We're like 5 people, so we're always in the same place, just going to the same places. So it's just part of it, I guess, the new normal. Not obviously going out to hanging out at bars or being elsewhere. I remember that when COVID started, the beaches were closed, the pool was closed, and that was their life because they're retired, and that's what they did. They went to the beach all the time, or they were at the pool. And one of them, he is the fiance with the girl that I work with, and he's just funny. And once the beach opened, I remember that he was so excited that he literally just grabbed his things and said, "Okay, we're going to the beach." Or like he texted everybody, "Gonna pick you guys up at 10 a.m. Be ready. The beaches are open. I need to get out of my house." And so we went, we hanged out, and I can say that it's been a really good experience, just like a weird experience at the same time, because I've never thought of hanging out with this type of people. That when I say type of people, people that could be my parents or my grandparents' age, and we get along so perfectly. It's like maybe I am their age mentally, or they're my age mentally. It's hilarious how we do get along. And it's funny how our relationship, our friendship basically started, because it was literally one day they went to my job, and they were there. I was taking care of them, and they were like, "Gloriann, what do you do for fun? Especially now that the bars are closed and everything's closed and you can't really meet new people." And I looked at them and I'm like, "Well, I talk to you guys, so that counts for something." They were like, "Oh, haha, funny." And then one of them told me like, "Oh, hey, you want a drink? Like, I'll buy you a drink." And once I got out of work, I sat down with them and we started to have conversations. And it's funny because they have kids my age, or like 6 or 10 years older than me. And the fact that their kids don't hang out with them, but I do, it's hilarious. I have this other friend that, from the group, this other friend that she is a snowbird. She was supposed to go back in March. And because they did a lockdown, she stayed here in Florida, and she's been scared to travel back home. So she has stayed here, and she has loved it so much, I guess, because of the bond that we have created due to COVID, that she doesn't want to go back home. And it's funny because her husband came a couple of weeks ago, and he literally said, "Oh, I get why you don't want to come back home." Because he told me, like, "You guys have a really good group here. You guys are all depending in each other, and you guys all worry about each other as well." And I looked at him and I told him, like, "Yeah, it's weird because I'm the youngest of the group." And sometimes I'm the one who has to take care of everybody, and the fact like, "Hey, did you take your pills? Hey, you did this? Hey, like, what are you doing? Like, you remember that your sugar levels." It's like me being the mom of the group, even though I'm the youngest. Don't get me wrong, I love hanging out with them. Every time they say to me, Gloriann, you need people your age to hang out with. And I'm like, yeah, but you guys are gonna miss me too much. And so anyways, the point is that making friends right now, it has been difficult because you can't really go out. And if you do go out, you're risking yourself and risking, other people as well. As I said, I did went out in Halloween, but I guess that was the last time that I hang out because I was so scared. And the fact that a lot of people called me and insulted me, or a lot of people just judged me for the fact of me hanging out, it was a lot. So that's why I keep close group of friends, and that's what I do. The other day my mom called me and I was hanging out with them, and she was like, Gloriann, what are you doing? We're in a global pandemic. Why are you hanging out with people? It's literally people that we do the exact same thing. Either we're in our house or we're here. And she was like, but still, you have to be careful because you don't know the people that they're hanging out with. And I'm like, Mom, again, and they're in their house almost every day. And if they're not in their house, they're here. So we've been really cautious about that. I remember that one of my friends, he lives in Georgia, and when Georgia opened completely, like no mask being mandatory and all that, him and his friends went out a lot. And I remember I texted him, we were talking, and I texted him like, dude, what is your deal with not wearing a mask or being hanging out everywhere? And he was like, dude, here everything's good. The fact of not hanging out or not being able to go out due to the pandemic, it has been hard. It has affected a lot of people, as I've talked about, and I've been one of those people because once the pandemic started, I can say that I was going through a really bad breakup, and I met someone. I've talked about this in other episodes. I met someone and that didn't work out as well. So obviously it was 2 failed relationships, and obviously you just want to go out and make friends or go out and meet new people, and with COVID you really can't do it. I mean, you can, but you're gonna risk yourself, and as I did in Halloween. So it has been a really complicated situation for everybody, especially for me, because again, as I said, I'm really sociable. I can really talk to the wall. You can just leave me talking to the wall, and I'm gonna make conversation with the walls. Nothing weird. Oh God. Anyways, so obviously this is my experience, and I can say that COVID has brought a new way of thinking, at least for me. And I have to be obviously really careful with the people that I hang out with. And I am really cautious because the other day I've had a couple of friends from Puerto Rico that come here to Florida, but I don't see them because either I don't feel safe going out with them or seeing them because they were in an airplane and they're just gonna be here for 3 days, even though they took a test and they're good, they're healthy. I really don't feel comfortable just driving and seeing them. And of course it's funny because again, I hang out with a couple of people. When it comes to my friends visiting Florida, I don't see them. First of all, to be honest, the people that have come here, I know them. It's more acquaintance type of thing. It's not like friends, because of course, if my best friend's going to be here, I'm going to go and see her because I haven't seen her in so long. Or if my grandparents are here, for sure they're even going to stay with me. So that's not an excuse there. But what I'm trying to say is it's been hard, and I guess we all have been trying to get used to a new world and a new normal, as I've said. And it's funny how not funny, but a lot of people have changed their ways, and either you've had this person that have been in their house for a year, not seeing their friends, not doing anything, just seeing everybody through a screen, and then you have people like me that can really travel to their home and seeing their friends and family, so they have made, a group of people that they can hang out with in this complicated or unfortunate times, uncertain times. A lot of you may be thinking like, okay, so what's the point in this little segment? The point is that we all have made changes. A year ago, none of us would have thought what we're doing now. I would have never thought that I will be hanging out with people that are double my age or triple my age, basically. And I would never have thought that a virus would have kept me apart from my family and my friends. But change, sometimes the world tells you, destiny tells you that, okay, you have to see that you're doing things the wrong way, or you have to see that you have to make a change in your life. And I'm hoping, really hoping, fingers crossed, that in summer, this is all going to be better controlled, and I can visit my family, I can visit my friends, I can travel, because at least last year I graduated, and I can say that I really miss my graduation trip. Once everything gets back to normal, I'll travel and celebrate the fact that I graduated. And yeah, that's all for today. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope that you're staying safe, and I hope that you could relate a little bit in this episode of how your relationships have been affected to COVID, and of course how you react with your friends, your family, and how you've been making friends during this uncertain times. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Relationship Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask you to please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.